One of the joys of going around to all sorts of different churches is that you hear some very odd things. You really do. You hear some great things too, don't you, when you go to other places, and I trust we hear some pretty good things here. But I've been elsewhere, and quite a number of places I've been to, not just in the town but well beyond. I've heard some very, very strange reasons given for why we might engage in mission. That's our theme for this sermon, and there's two more. There's a gap in the middle, actually, but we're on another three. We just finished 3 on healing for wholeness and why and how we should receive the Lord's healing in our lives and in the lives of those that we touch. But today we're beginning the theme of evangelism, and we're asking the question, why? Why should we be involved in evangelism? What's the point of that, and why does God ask us to do that? And the answer that I've had in a number of churches that I've been to, and by no means all, but it goes something like this. We're all old in this church. I'm glad to say that's not true of here. We're all old in this church, and in about 10, 20 years' time, we'll all be dead and gone. They don't mention heaven or the glory of what it's like actually to know the Lord when they're dead and gone, but they say we'll all be dead and gone, and this church will be closed if we don't do anything about it, so we better get on and do something now. Now, I suppose St. Paul would say, as he says about some other things, it doesn't matter what the motivation, as long as Jesus Christ is preached to people, that's great. But it's much better to have a better motivation than that. After all, those people are basically saying, we're not interested in the people outside really, we just want to keep our church going. I don't have any interest really in keeping this church going. If the Lord wants to close it, let him close it. But if you're going to use it for his purposes, then let it stay open until Jesus returns. Let it increase. But you see, that sort of motivation is very odd because it's so self-centered. We want this church, they're saying, we want this church to stay the way it is and do the things it's always done because that's what we like, so we'd like to get some more people in to make sure it carries on. I don't think that the motivation should be about ourselves like that. I don't think it should even be about our church and keeping it going like that. I think it's got to be something to do with our Lord, hasn't it? It's got to have something to do with this Jesus who died and rose from the dead precisely for us, and that makes a difference to us, and actually somewhere along the line, because that amazing thing has happened, that 2,000 years ago he died and rose again. It's fact, it's happened, and we've met him. That surely should give us a bit of passion. No, sorry, can't have that. We're Church of England, aren't we? No, we can't have passion. No, we do have passion because first and foremost, we're not Church of England. We just belong to him. Amen? First and foremost, we belong to him. So we're looking at the motivation for our evangelism. Really, my aim would be to let the Holy Spirit loose on all of us so that he fans into a white-hot flame that passion for evangelism. And then in the next couple of sermons on this subject, we're going to hear about how we do that, what things we might be involved in, how it would happen, how God might use us, and then we're going to look at some of the obstacles for that and how God can help us to overcome those obstacles for ourselves and for the people that we're speaking to and trying to help. So we're going to think today about the motivation. But first of all, we need to ask, well, what do we mean by evangelism? Partly because for a few of you it may well be a word you've never heard before, that's okay. But even if you have heard the word before, you may have all sorts of ideas about it that have sort of collected around the word that are actually inaccurate. And you might be therefore saying, oh, it's not me, can't do that. After all, when we think of evangelism, we tend to think of particular people who stand up the front like me and do some talks. And we think that is evangelism. And if that's the case, many of you, probably quite rightly, could say, I don't think I'll ever do that. I don't want to do it, ever. I'll let you into a secret. I'm not sure that I want to do it either, but God called me and that's the end of it. But evangelism isn't just about that. Evangelism means the whole process where somebody who doesn't know much about God, maybe is disinterested, maybe definitely believes there isn't a God, whatever their state at that moment, they move from that point through a process to the point where they say, yep, I'm going to give my life to Jesus Christ because I believe he gave his life for me. And he's alive, and that makes all the difference to my life now and to my life for all eternity. I'm going to offer myself to Jesus. And that process, in some cases, that process can take a few minutes. It's exciting when somebody, these tend to be the stories that get told, so people assume that's the way it is for everyone. No, it's not like that for everyone. But for some people, a few minutes, they didn't believe in God, and something dramatic happens, and that day they say, yep, I want to believe in him. I want to go his way. For many of us, it's the same process, but it takes sometimes years. And sometimes we move a bit forward, and then we move a bit backwards. But it's that process, however long it takes. And whatever series of things has to happen on that process to get to that point, that's all evangelism. The point over here where somebody actually becomes a Christian might be some great preacher, I don't mean me, I mean some great preacher, coming and telling people about Jesus and saying, now's your moment to come and become a Christian. And that may be, and many people it has been, the moment when they say yes. But leading up to that may have been any number of other things, some of them very small events. Some of them may be very dramatic events. Some of them perhaps sad events where in the midst of their pain they've met with the God who loves them and comforts them. They've been supported by a Christian. They've had questions answered by Christians. They've just made that progress to that point where they're ready. So evangelism is all of that. And that means that every one of us can be involved in it. Now, I've said that to you before, but you still get people that seem to think it's only that last bit. Oh, I've never seen anybody come to Jesus like that through what I've done, so I can't be involved in evangelism. I'm not doing it, or I'm not doing it right. And they're forgetting that so many other things are needed before that person comes to that point, and those are evangelism too. So we need to understand that, because the devil, literally I mean this, the devil hates evangelism happening. Why? Because if anybody hears about Jesus, they might actually become a Christian. They might actually get saved and brought into new life, and they might be changed for all eternity, and Satan hates that. So one of the things he does to you and me is to say, you're not like that person, you're not like that person, so you can't possibly evangelize, so give up on it and just feel guilty. Some of us have heard exactly that message, haven't we? I can't do that, so I can't be involved in it. I'm useless, so I'll just give up and hope that it's not on that subject when I come to church. Sorry about this morning. We got you, didn't we? Actually, God's saying, I want to use everybody. There are some things that I can do. As Rural Dean last Sunday morning, I wasn't here at St Helens or at St Barnabas Church. I was down in Alexandra Park getting soaking wet because the rain fell the whole time, and at least I had an umbrella. But the uniformed organisations for Remembrance Day, most of them standing there, as they say, stand easy. It didn't look that easy to me in that rain. But anyway, there they were for, I don't know, probably an hour. The service didn't last that long, but that's how long they were there, getting soaking wet. And I went along as the Rural Dean and being asked to lead the service and to invite people to lay their wreaths and to sing the national anthem and another hymn and things like that, and welcome everyone, the normal things that you're supposed to do at things like that. And then I got an opportunity to do a short talk. Now, you know I'm good at short talks, don't you? They laughed. Did you notice? I actually promise you it was about 3 minutes long. I think, thank you. But I wasn't here then, was I? So I haven't finished yet. It was quite short. And in my talk, I did what everybody expected me to do. I talked about remembrance, and I talked about poppies, and I talked about the sadness of many people's memories over war, and I talked about God's comfort and love. But I never ever mentioned that Jesus died on a cross. I never ever mentioned that he was alive and that people could get to know him. I never ever mentioned that their lives could be completely changed and they could find a God who really loves them. I didn't do that at all, did I? Yes, I did. Yes, I did, with hundreds of people there who probably don't go to church from one year to the next, but on that Sunday they feel that they want to be there. Hundreds, more people this year than ever, despite the rain. It's a great privilege. And one of the things I can do is stand up the front. I'm terrified doing it, but I can still do it. I stand up the front, and when I have an opportunity like that, I tell people about Jesus. And I tell what he means to me. And I tell them that actually they could meet him too, and they could find the reality of God. And the power of the cross is even more important than the power of the poppy. That's what I said on that Sunday. Was that evangelism? Do you know how many people became a Christian? Don't know. Probably none, maybe none. But maybe some were moved a little bit further along, at least to ask the question, that funny reverend fella at the front there, he seemed to believe something, didn't he? Like the bishop who did the year before. There's something about them that actually they mean what they're saying, don't they? It isn't just doing it by rote. That's evangelism. I can do that. But I'll pick on Roger because he's leading the service, so forgive me, Roger. But I'm in awe of Roger, who can organise the Schools Work project, who can get a big, huge van to do classes for kids in the secondary schools next year. He can organise those things brilliantly. He's got such a passion for doing those things. I'm in awe of Nick, who's hiding up the back there looking like, what's that one, Kilroy at the moment, because I can just see his nose and head. And I'm amazed at Nick because he's got such passion to help us do the Alpha courses. And he organises those, and he just wants to see it happen, and he wants to see people become. I can't do that. I can't do what Roger does. I can't do what Nick does. I was in awe of dear Pat Thomas, who's with the Lord now, but we remember her with great fondness. She had the most amazing ability to get alongside people who were drug addicts and alcoholics and down and outs and people in other need. She was there, wasn't she, Alan? We're remembering her with great joy. She was always there. I can't do that. Do you know, I feel inadequate. Do you know, I think I probably ought to stop preaching completely because I'm so useless. I can't do those things. So I can't be an evangelist because I haven't got those gifts. Are you getting it yet? I haven't got those gifts, but I have got some. I have got some things I can do. And if the devil has been whispering to you, you can't do it because you're not like Chris Key, or you're not like Roger Mitchell, or you're not like Pat Thomas, or you're not like Nick Warren, then please would you just try and shut the devil up and say, I know I'm not like them. I'm not supposed to be. I'm supposed to be me, using my particular personality and gifts and my opportunities. See, if I'd gone to the Remembrance Day service and I hadn't said anything about Jesus, then I'd have flunked it, wouldn't I? Right? Because I wouldn't be using my gifts and I wouldn't be using my opportunity. You can't do that because you're not the Rural Dean. Surprise, surprise, God's not asking you to do that, but he is asking you to do some other things. Evangelism is a whole range of things, from giving somebody a cup of water, right the way through to preaching it so that people become Christians. Every bit of it can be involved in evangelism. So living distinctively, actually saying, yeah, I'm living this way because I have different values to the way the world is. So I don't have the immorality, and I don't value getting all that I can. I tend to value giving things away. I'm living distinctively because I believe certain things, and people will look at that and say, oh. I had an acquaintance of mine came up to me the other day. He said, I saw you. I said, oh, did you really? He said, I saw you outside McDonald's. He said, you were preaching. I said, did I preach? He said, well, no, you didn't say, you didn't shout out or anything like that. He said, but I knew you were going to. I said, actually, I didn't preach because that's not what I'm there for. He said, oh, no, I remember there was this big banner up there saying healing. I said, yeah, that's why we're there every Saturday, down town centre and outside McDonald's on Saturdays. We're there because we believe. You see, we've got a value of a God who heals today. So we're going to do something. We go and stand there and ask people if we can pray for them, or let them come to us and ask for prayer, and we're expecting God to turn up and heal people because that's what we believe. So we live a different way. And people, he thought it was going to have some fun at my expense. Actually, he went away thinking, oh, they really do believe that, don't they? Was that evangelism? Yes, it was. Just having been there and been seen by him actually says something because I'm living differently. Now, your different way of living will be different from mine, but as a Christian, living differently. Resourcing evangelism elsewhere, paying for it, praying for it, encouraging it, getting involved in ways that you can, all of that, and speaking out when you can. One of the lovely bits in this passage that we had is from Mary Magdalene.